welcome back.
Yeah, man, how you doing? You know you like that.
What's up, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of Math Talk with Mr. Faison, and I'm Mr. Faison, or Mr. Faison, as long as you know. Today we're going to be working on adding and subtracting positive and negative numbers. Now what I want y'all to do is take a second to look at this board, right? What it tells us is when adding and subtracting positive and negative numbers, if the signs are the same, we keep the sign and add the numbers. Once again, for adding and subtracting only, if the signs are the same, we keep the sign and we add the numbers. What does that mean? Let's take a second to look at a couple examples. The first one we look at is 6 plus 5. The 6 is positive and the 5 is positive. That means we know that our answer is going to be positive and we just add. So we have a positive 11. We drop down to number 2. We have negative 6 plus negative 5. I'm looking at this and I can see that my 6 is negative and my 5 is negative. So since both of the signs are the same, we keep the sign and we add. So I know my answer is going to be negative, and 6 plus 5 is 11. So I have a negative 11. I drop down to number 3. I have negative 12 plus negative 2. Now I put the negative 2 in parentheses because that's a way that you might see it, honestly. But at the same time, we have to understand that we're still doing it the same way we did problem number 2. So I can look at it and tell you my 12 is negative and my 2 is negative. So both of the signs are negative, so I know my answer is going to be negative. Then we just have to add. 12 plus 2 is 14. Negative 14 is our answer. So I look at number 4 and I have negative 12 minus 2. Looking at this 2, it's a minus sign in front of it. That minus sign indicates and lets me know that this 2 is going to be negative. So I have a negative 12, and now I know this 2 is negative. So both of those numbers both being negative, I know my answer is going to be negative. Now all I have to do is add. 12 plus 2, once again, is 14. So it's going to be negative 14. But now what I want to do is I want to show y'all what happens when the signs are different. Let's see. There we go. There we go. Look, when adding or subtracting positive and negative numbers, if the signs are different, we take the sign of the higher number and subtract the numbers. Once again, when we're adding and subtracting positive and negative numbers, if the signs are different, we take the signs of the bigger number and we subtract. All right, how does that look when we put it into action? Let's check out these two problems right here. Look, number 1, 5 plus negative 10. If I look, 10 is the bigger number and it's negative. So I know my answer is going to be negative. And I have to just subtract. 10 minus 5 is 5. So negative 5 will be my answer. Also, you can look at it like this. If somebody owes me $10 and they give me back only $5, how much do they owe me? They'll still be in debt $5. So let's drop down to number 2. I have negative 14 plus 12. Looking at these two, the 14 is the bigger number and it's negative. So I know my answer is going to be negative. Now I just have to subtract. 14 minus 12, which is going to be 2. Negative 2 is my answer. I could also look at it as somebody owed me $14 and they only gave me back $12. How much money do they still owe me? They still owe me $2. They're still being debt to me $2. So y'all know before I get up out of here, we got to do some problems that's going to be a little more challenging. Let's see what we got. Cool, there we go. Now, what we're looking at is number 1, 12 minus negative 6. I need y'all to understand, when y'all see a minus sign and a negative sign that close together, all we want to do is turn them into addition. Both of them. Plus, plus. So now we're looking at 12 plus 6. 12 plus 6 will give me 18. Now we drop down to number 2. We have negative 15 minus negative 1. Now I put it in parentheses just because you might see it in parentheses. But I need you to understand, it's literally the same thing as problem number 1. We see that minus sign and that negative sign that close to each other, we still going to make both of them addition. Negative 15 plus 1. Remember, if the signs are different, we keep the sign of the bigger number. 15 is negative. So the answer is going to be negative, and then we subtract them. 15 minus 1 is 14. Our answer is going to be negative 14. Now let's hop over here to number 3. I have negative 4 plus 6 minus negative 6 plus 3 minus 2. The first thing we have to do inside this problem is, when we see this minus sign and this negative sign touching each other, we have to turn them into addition, both of them. So now what we're looking at is negative 4 plus 6 plus 6 plus 3 minus 2. Now what I like to do when I see long problems like this is I'll take all my like terms and put them together. So what I'm gonna do is take my positive numbers first. I have a positive 6, another positive 6, a positive 3. If I add all of them up, I have a positive 15. Now, I don't need those anymore. I can mark them out. Now I'm gonna go with my negative numbers. I have a negative 4 and I have a negative 2. If I put them two together, I have a negative 6. All right? Now all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna solve this. 15 minus 6. 15 minus 6 is 9. That's my answer. Look, y'all, that's another episode of Math Talk with Mr. Faison, and on today's lesson, we just learned how to add and subtract positive and negative numbers. Hey, man, hopefully you paid attention. Hopefully you learned something, man. Tap in with us next time.
God's plan, God's plan.